Joining me is Jacques Doucet of WAFB Sports, CBS affiliate in Baton Rouge, who's been covering LSU for a long time. Reason we're talking to Jacques is because there's really nobody else to talk to. There's a bunch of sports writers standing around, and all your years of covering LSU, one player came out for post-game interviews. Pretty shocking.
That's pretty unusual. Typically, we get 3 or 4, even when it's a bad loss. Yeah, we'll get 3 players. They brought 2 to the podium with Coach Miles, but Lewis Neal was the only player that came out and spoke to us here in the hallway. And for a game where all the storylines pretty much are towards the offensive side of the ball, there really was there were no players, I guess, on that side of the ball representing LSU. And you know, it's tough for players to talk after a loss, but it is kind of a responsibility that somebody, a team leader, you know, represent them and do an interview, I think.
I can tell you in all my years of covering LSU, you know, the guy who to me impressed me the most was Jared Lee. You know, when he was a redshirt freshman, he threw a ton of picks. In every single game, he came out and addressed the media and handled himself with class and dignity and did a great job. And somehow in the last few years, LSU has elected to not necessarily put out its star players for some of these post-game interviews. Just want to get your overall thoughts. I mean, first off, on a positive note, the experience of coming to Green Bay and Lambeau and how the Tigers took over Wisconsin. The Tiger fans, that is.
Yeah, no doubt, Ronnie. It was a wonderful experience for the most part. The weather was absolutely perfect to be in such a classy venue, to visit the Packers Hall of Fame. I mean, everything here is first class, so unique to see. It's like driving into Hammond almost, little small houses all around here, and then this big 81,000 seat stadium. So everyone was very kind. The food was great. The game was crushing. Crushing would be the word that I would use. After all the preseason hype, after Tre'Davious White, Kendall Beckwith come back for their senior years, national championship was all we heard. The summer in Baton Rouge with the racial tension, with the floods, LSU said we wanted to play for the community, and that's a lot of pressure to put on a football team, but they said that's what they wanted to do, and for them to start this way with all the fans that came up here to see them play, it's just really crushing.
I wonder if the conversation's going to begin and if it's legitimate about the quarterback position. You know, Brandon Harris does not play well. They lose the game. It's obvious offensively the coaching staff doesn't have a lot of confidence in him the way they called the game. Does this give the backup quarterback an opportunity?
Well, they've spent their one mulligan. I mean, you can't lose another game and be in the national championship. I mean, you lose another one, you're going to be out. 2007 was the rare exception that happened. So, Danny Etling, Justin McMillan, and Lindsey Scott. Lindsey Scott's a real popular guy around Baton Rouge. A lot of people think, hey, give him a shot. But, you know, all the things that plagued LSU during their 3-game losing streak back in November, we saw a lot of that stuff out here today. And Les Miles, from a professional standpoint, had a near-death experience with his job, and typically that causes big change and realization and things to be changed. And today we didn't see a lot of change.
I'll tell you a funny story before we go back to the Louisiana Cat Studios. Jimmy Taylor, of course, the NFL Hall of Famer, LSU great, played Super Bowl champion here, was here this weekend. I mean, what a fantastic thing for Jimmy Taylor personally, being an LSU star, to come back to Green Bay where his alma mater is playing in his old field, Lambeau Field. He actually was on an LSU alumni tour of Lambeau Field last night with 1,000 LSU fans and a private tour put on by the LSU alumni. He was a part of the tour group like a normal person, and which was shocking to everybody giving the tour and who was on the tour. So how about that? Jimmy Taylor finding out behind the scenes of Lambeau Field, something he knows pretty well.
Yeah, A, I hope to live to 81 years old, and B, I hope to look as good as Jimmy Taylor when I'm 81, because he'll be 81 in September, I believe. So a big exhibit here for him in the Packers Hall of Fame. LSU All-American. I think he was the Packers' all-time leading rusher for over 40 years before that mark was broken, and I think a 4-time world champion here with the Packers.
Jacques, thanks for the time. Appreciate it very much. Jacques Doucet of WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. Let's go back to the gang in the Louisiana Cat Studios.